I just wanted to make a quick video for you with about a dozen or so tips that will be really helpful for you, no matter if you're experiencing hypnosis with a one-on-one hypnotherapist, that type of session, or if you are listening to an audio recording of a hypnosis session, or if you are experiencing a live online hypnosis session. So no matter what type of hypnosis session you are having, these dozen or so tips will be really, really helpful for you. Actually, there's only one that really only applies to a one-on-one session, and I'll highlight that whenever we get to that one that's a little bit of an outlier. So when it comes to these sessions, again, any style, I want to make sure that you always self-advocate. So no matter if you are by yourself and you need to pee, get up and pee. If you're with a hypnotherapist and you need to pee, get up and pee. If the room is too hot, if the room is too cold, if the hypnotherapist's voice or the audio recording is too quiet, just ask for the volume to be adjusted. The person can speak quieter or more softly. You can always open your eyes. It's fine to turn the volume up or to turn the volume down. So self-advocate. Make sure that you are putting yourself in a situation that feels good, that feels relaxing, that feels positive, and is without distraction. So always self-advocate. That also applies to if you feel like you want to go deeper into your sessions. So if you are working with a hypnotherapist, you can just say like, hey, this is a great level that I'm at right now, but I'd really love to feel what it feels like to go even deeper. Or if you are on your own listening to an audio recording, or it's a guided session live online and you want to go deeper, just, allow yourself to follow the flow of your out breath and let those exhales take you deeper. So there's always a way to problem solve no matter what type of session you're experiencing. In addition to self-advocating, this applies to also moving toward what you feel most drawn to. So let's say you're working with a hypnotherapist and they're following a script really closely and they're taking you from one scene in a past life and then they're taking you to another scene. Maybe you feel really drawn to a cottage at the end of a road and that's where you want to go instead of going to this next scripted place in the session. Just follow what you're drawn to. So whether it's that cottage or something different, always follow your heart. Similarly, always trust if you're not meant to experience something. So let's say that the universe has given you something that's a little more challenging to experience in your session. It is totally fine to say, thank you, universe, for trusting me with this high level of challenge. However, today I don't really feel like dealing with it, and then move into something that feels more comfortable for you. Now, I do have to say, if I'm the client and something challenging comes up, I always take advantage of that opportunity and I go more deeply into that challenging experience because there is something positive waiting for me on the other side, whether it's a lesson or healing or something like that. So I'm not advocating for you to avoid challenging situations. I actually do the opposite. What I am saying is if you really feel very uncomfortable about it, you need to self-advocate and you need to either go to something different in the session, maybe another memory, maybe another area of the spirit realm, whatever it may be, or, and this is a really happy compromise, if something challenging is coming in and you don't want to feel it or experience it firsthand, what you can do is elevate so that you're kind of hovering outside of or above the scene, and then you can become aware of what happens without feeling it as deeply as if you were there first person. So there are many ways to handle it. If you want to follow that middle path, that's a really nice way to handle a more challenging situation, okay? Let's see, what else? This is such a big one. I really, really want to highlight this. So I know you can't tell, but I'm in a book, or maybe I am in a book. I'm in a room right now that is surrounded by books from really amazing hypnotherapists that have really changed the entire way that we view past lives, our life's purpose, our souls. And so in these books, there are all of these amazing stories, and it's interesting because of the way that these books are written. I've noticed that there are a couple of common misconceptions that the readers of these books, who then become hypnosis clients, that they carry pretty deeply within them. The first one is the belief that these sessions are going to be very visually based. Now, it's much easier to write books from a visual vantage point. I saw this, I looked at that, right? Not all of the sessions, actually a lot of the sessions aren't that visual. So it's okay if you're not a visual person. You can still have an amazing session. Sometimes somebody who is visual doesn't have a very visual session. Sometimes you'll have a session where part of it is incredibly visual. Other parts of it, not at all. So really allow all of your senses to be on your team. Could be a vision that comes in. It might be auditory. You might actually even smell fragrances. That's rare, but it does happen. A lot of times, what comes in is just, I say just, but I think it's the most important one, a sensing or a knowing or a feeling. And sometimes the feeling is more of an emotional feeling. Other times it's a bodily feeling. Your body will also provide information for you. I mean, really just allow whatever it is, the way that the answer, the information, the energy is supposed to come in. Let those senses help you. And it doesn't always have to be visual. The other thing, the misconception that a lot of people have gotten from these really amazing books, they're really amazing books, but they're also kind of like time capsules of what the sessions were like when the books were written, or when those sessions were documented and then the books were written. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times in the past, now remember, a lot of these books are decades old. Great information, but decades old. A lot of times in the past, it was much more common for the client to become consciously unaware of what was happening in the session. It is very, 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 very likely that you will remain consciously present in your session. Now, I have a really cool answer for why that has happened, why that has changed since these time capsule sessions in these books. When I was learning these deeper styles of hypnosis, QHHT, LBL, and so on, and I'm reading these books and I'm finding out that the clients have almost no conscious awareness and don't even know what happened whenever they come back from the session. You know, I also thought that's the way that those sessions were supposed to be. But then, as I was practicing with all of these clients in these beautiful styles of hypnosis, and I was also receiving these beautiful styles of hypnosis, I noticed that of all of those sessions, there were only two. We're talking about a lot of sessions here. There were only two where the person became consciously unaware for a portion of their session. So whenever I was training with, I don't want to say any names, but when I was training with a higher up, and by high I mean like higher up, and I asked her if I was doing something wrong, because the sessions were amazing. The ones I was receiving, the ones I was facilitating, they were really powerful, impactful, beautiful sessions. But the people were consciously aware basically the entire time, if not the entire time, myself included, whenever I was the client. And so I said to her, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, even though these are incredible sessions. And she said to me, guess what? Nothing wrong is happening for the last couple of years. And so we were having this conversation in 2016. So I take it back to 2014. I've been a client since 2013, so I can vouch for that at least since 2013, this has been happening for me personally. But for the last couple of years, the people have been much more consciously aware, if not completely consciously aware, during their entire sessions, and that's a really good thing. And I said to her, okay, well, I'm glad I'm not doing something wrong, but also tell me, why is this a good thing? And she said, it's because the veil is thinning between this realm and the spirit realm. And so our conscious minds previously were checking out whenever, this big connection was happening. And now our conscious minds are really just curious about what's going on. They're on the team, they want to be present, and so they're sticking around. This is really, really good news, because also when you're finished with the session, who's in charge of your day-to-day life? Your conscious mind. So it's really awesome that your conscious mind was fully present for the session. Now, if your conscious mind is chattering a little bit and distracting you in the session, that doesn't feel that good. Just say to your conscious mind, hey, we can think about and analyze and question and challenge the entirety of this session after it is complete. But during the session, let's just go with it. Let's just experience it. We're here in the session for a reason. Let's just go all the way in and then think about it later, okay? Where are we? Ooh, okay, so this is the opposite end of the spectrum. So sometimes people want to be consciously present, sometimes they don't. I will have clients who will say to me, Courtney, I'm pretty sure I'm going to fall asleep during the session. And I will say to them, no big deal, it may happen, and it probably isn't sleep. And the reason I'm so relaxed about that is that I've learned over the years and years of doing this, I've learned a couple of things about what seems to be like sleep during the sessions. First of all, it's not that common. Second of all, whenever it happens, it's usually for about 3 minutes. It's not that long, so it doesn't eat up very much of the session at all. The third point that I want to make is that I find it to be incredibly valuable. I have noticed that there is a pretty consistent pattern that whenever the person goes into, and I only know that something has shifted because I start to hear sleep breathing, and it sounds different. So whenever they go into that sleep breathing, and it's just for a handful of minutes, the pattern is that they are going into a much deeper healing. A lot of times it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, but it's very, very purposeful. And so they're just being dropped a little bit deeper into that really deep state of healing. It's pretty awesome. And sometimes people are aware of feeling like they've fallen asleep, and sometimes they don't even realize that it's happened. But the quality of the breathing changes so much that you can even hear it on the audio recording of their sessions. So it is a remarkable thing. It's not something that I've ever tried to force to happen, but whenever it does happen, I know that it's a good thing, and that I should just, step back, let it run its course, leave it alone. It's a really beautiful thing that you're experiencing. So if you are listening to an audio recording or you're participating in a live online session and something like that happens, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, because you were meant to go into that depth for a certain reason, and just trust the process and what's happening. And then also, if it's an audio recording, or if it's a live online session like the kind that I facilitate, you will have another opportunity to listen to the recording later. So if you're meant to stay present for that part of the session, you'll be able to, whenever you experience the session, the recording again at a later time. Pretty cool. Now, this is the part that really only applies to when you're working one-on-one with a hypnotherapist. I still want to say that it would apply also to if you were doing an audio recording of you listening to another type of session. So for example, what I mean by that is, this is something that I would probably do, where I would put on my headphones if I was listening to a guided hypnosis audio recording, but I would also have my little recorder playing in case I wanted to narrate something for the recorder to pick it up, so I didn't have to try to consciously remember what was happening. So this actually even applies to when you're not working with a hypnotherapist, but far more likely you're going to be doing this when you're working with a hypnotherapist, and that's the narration of your experience. And there are primarily two styles of narrating, and they're both great. You need to go with your heart and feel what works best for you. It's kind of tough to predict ahead of time which style is going to be best for you. Some people really like narrating live. And what I mean by that is, as the action is happening, the energy's flowing in, the memory is coming in, whatever it may be, they like to say as it's happening and narrate to the hypnotherapist what's happening as it's happening. Now, if you end up being like me, and many other clients are like this as well, we like to feel like that part of the session is complete before we narrate it. Here are a couple of examples. let's say you've gone into a past life memory and I don't know, you're being proposed to. You're out in nature, you're being proposed to. It's just beautiful, romantic, loving scene. So rather than saying, oh my gosh, and now he's bending down on one knee, oh my gosh, and the birds are singing. What I would do, and what a lot of clients would do, is just quietly experience the entirety of that proposal, whatever it may be, until it feels complete. And then, and you know when it feels complete, it just, there's a little bit of a pause there, and it feels like, okay, got all of it. Then when it feels complete, then narrate what has just happened to catch the hypnotherapist up to speed. Now, I've given an example of a past life memory, but it could also be something like you are receiving healing in the spirit realm, or you are releasing a block that you've been holding on to in your body. Same thing. You don't need to talk, unless it helps. If it helps, go for it. But you don't need to talk about, and now it's going from the top of my head and down into my shoulders and then into my kneecaps, and then just feel it. Just feel it as deeply as you want to, and then talk about it when it feels complete. Here's the thing about that. If you're working with me, I'm really, really comfortable with silence. I know how powerful it is and how beneficial it is if that's your preferred style of narration. So I will never feel awkward about a prolonged period of silence. Now, you can feel the vibe. Some hypnotherapists really like to check in to know that you are having an experience. And so when you get that vibe that the person just, and it's a really nice thing that they're doing, they're just checking in on you. They just want to make sure that you're having a full, deep, rich experience. So whenever they're doing that and I'm the client, I will just say to them, and it's really obvious, you can tell, I will just say to them, oh, okay, you know, the energy of rainbows and sunshine is starting to come in. I'm going to feel this really deeply. I'll probably be quiet for a bit and I'll let you know when it feels complete. So I actually, as the client, will take care of them and give them a heads up that I'm about to be quiet, because I know that if I don't do that, they're going to start asking me questions in the middle of me feeling rainbows and sunshine, which I want to feel without having to answer questions. So that's a really tactful, polite way of me self-advocating so that I can feel the experience, knowing that I have preempted any interrupting questions that I really don't want to engage with while I'm receiving that energy. Again, the hypnotherapist is really just trying to take good care of you because they don't realize the narration style that you are preferring. So just self-advocate and let them know that you're going to be quiet for a couple of minutes, okay? What else? Okay, so now we've moved into, these apply to when you're working with a hypnotherapist, but they especially apply to when you are in a way on your own. So even if you're listening to one of my live online guided hypnosis sessions or an audio session, because even though we're together, you're still really the one who is in charge 100% of your session. And by that, I mean, you're not going to have me there to help with a certain question or a certain style of investigation or a certain suggestion. I won't be able to do that for you. So you're going to have to be the one who does that for you. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you've asked a higher wisdom question, the answer has come in, and the answer has been really, really clear, but you need something that has more depth, more information to it. So let's say you've asked, should I move in November? And the universe just says, yes. Well, that's super clear, but you can always internally ask a follow-up question or follow-up questions and just ask and say, all right, well, that's great that I should be moving in November, but I'm not quite sure what's going on with my work situation or which college my kid is going to get into, you know, so there are all these follow-up questions that you might want to ask. So you need to be the one who self-advocates and asks those follow-up questions in your own heart to the universe. Similarly, let's say an answer comes in and it is just wildly unclear. I mean, they speak in symbols so much. So you might say, should I move in November? And then you see a bunny rabbit hop by. Well, what on earth is that supposed to mean? So on one hand, you've received an answer. On the other hand, what? And so you can always ask clarifying questions. So you can just say to the universe, again, self-advocating, and say, thanks for the bunny rabbit, but what does the bunny rabbit mean? What does it represent? And anything could happen. It could say, yeah, take the leap, right? Or it could mean something like, you need to follow the energy of the bunny rabbit. We are trying to show you something over here. So you just have to follow your heart and then ask those clarifying questions, ask those follow-up questions. That's something that you really need to do for yourself. But the same thing, if you're working with a hypnotherapist, let's say that the hypnotherapist feels like the answer that you got is complete, but they don't know that you actually have a lingering question in the back of your mind. Self-advocate and say like, hey, I know I got a quick yes on that move in November, but I need to ask about my kid's college, because your hypnotherapist might not even know that that is something that's connected to that question or that answer. So always self-advocate about those, about finding out more information. So this applies to the one-on-one sessions with the hypnotherapist, but it mainly applies just to listening to an audio recording or one of the live online hypnosis sessions. And it is the advice of going rogue. So let's say that you are 10 minutes into listening to the session or experiencing the live online session, and you've got another hour to go. And maybe in that first 10 minutes, something that is so interesting, so fascinating, so emotionally gripping has just captivated you. And then you're listening to the hypnotherapist, and you're not working with a live hypnotherapist, so they don't know that that has happened for you. So you need to self-advocate within yourself and just give yourself permission to go rogue and not follow along with what the hypnotherapist is saying, and just follow your heart. Follow your heart. Because let's say, but you don't need to give up on your hypnosis session either. You don't need to take your headphones out or anything like that. What you can do is follow your heart, investigate whatever that captivating thing is for however long you need to investigate it, and then just trust the universe, the timing of the universe, that you will come back into the session, whether you're listening to a recording or it's a live online session, that you will come back to the hypnotherapist's voice and whatever guidance they're offering at the exact right moment that you're meant to, and then you'll be able to continue on with the recording or the live session, however it is flowing at that time. Now, yeah, but same thing, if you're working with a one-on-one hypnotherapist, you gotta self-advocate. So what captures your heart and what captures their attention might be two totally different things. They might say go to the woods where that bird you told me about is singing, and you might in your heart know that you're supposed to absorb the energy of the lake that's right there next to you. So you gotta say like, really interested in the woods and the bird, but you know what, I gotta go to the lake first. So always follow your heart, go rogue, self-advocate. I want to say this, and I want to make sure I say it really, really clearly. It's your session. It's your session. So whatever is going on, you need to follow your heart. You need to follow your guidance. You need to be true to yourself because it is your session. All right. I think we only have one more section to cover. Let's say your session stalls. Oh, it happens. And there are a variety of reasons that the stall might happen. And by stall, I mean, maybe it's the very beginning of your session and it's not really off to a rockin' start. It's just like the neutral blackness of having your eyes closed and that's it. Yeah, let's start there. So let's say that's the way that your session starts. Not a big deal, happens all the time. Even happens to those of us who are super experienced and have had amazing sessions in the past. Sometimes a session just has a slow start, or sometimes you're partway through a session that has been rocking and then it quiets down. If it is a slow start session or if it is just quieted down partway through, My first bit of advice is to just stay really patient. Sometimes it's not that you're getting no answer. Sometimes it's that it's just going to take a little bit for the answer, the energy, the spirit friend, whatever it may be. Sometimes it just takes a moment for that information, energy, person, soul to make itself known. So just, stay relaxed, stay chill, stay patient, and you will reap the benefits of that patience. Now, if it's been quiet for too long and you're like, I feel like I've been pretty patient, then there are a couple of other things that you can try, especially let's say that you are in the middle of your session, you've been getting answers, there's been a good flow, and then suddenly it just stops dead in its tracks. There are two bits of advice there. The first is go back to the moment where there was flow and then restart from that moment. So let's say that you're in a past life and you have you've come to a fork in the woods and you started to go right. I just pointed to the left. You you start to go left, and it's just like suddenly the woods turn into blackness, turn into nothing, and you're like, where did it go? It was so vivid. Just go back to that fork in the woods, go to the right, and then see what happens. Most likely something new will materialize. Now, let's say that you've hit a stall. Things were flowing. You've hit a stall. Sometimes the best advice is to go back to where you were last getting a lot of information, and then just ask your soul, ask the universe, is there something that I didn't find out about this that I need to find out about before we move on to the next step? That has unlocked a lot of sessions where it was just like, it was flowing, then it was nothing. When we go back and we say, hey, last point of flow, is there something that we didn't find out about? And inevitably, yeah, there was something, and the universe has just stopped your session because they don't want you to miss that point that we were accidentally just blowing right by. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. All right, the last tip. The last tip is that sometimes there is a stall in the session because even though you have amazing questions, you might be focusing on something that isn't the right topic for that day. And this happens in sessions all the time, where a person will have, let's say, 4, 10, however many amazing, really important topics that they want to investigate. And then 75-90% of the session ends up focusing very deeply on a topic that wasn't even on their list. The reason that happens is because the universe understands that that topic needs to be addressed very thoroughly and completely before those other really amazing topics get addressed. So just trust that sometimes whenever it feels like there's not a lot of flow, or there's a stall or a slow start, that it's really just about that there is something different that you are meant to address on that day. And just ask the universe and say like, hey, whatever I'm supposed to learn about today, whatever I'm supposed to heal today, whatever I'm supposed to, insert goal today, I'm open. I just want to experience whatever is best for today, and then just see how it flows. It'll be pretty cool. Okay, I would recommend that you watch this video a couple more times because there's so much good information in this that will apply to any of your hypnosis sessions. And I hope that it is of great benefit to you. And I really hope that you have amazing, amazing sessions that are even better now because of all of these wonderful tips. Okay, all right. Thanks for listening.